Hello, my name's Deborah Murdoch-Eaton. I live in schools and worship at St Philip's. Today's reflection comes from Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 to 42. It's the passage referring to an eye for an eye. You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. This is quite an oft quoted passage, not always necessarily in the way that and the context within which Jesus was talking. These days, when you hear someone speaking of an eye for an eye, it's often to justify their desire for revenge. Yet there's nothing new about the desire for revenge, nor in the problem of escalating vendettas. I read earlier that this phrase comes to us from Mosaic law articulated in the Old Testament in both Exodus and Leviticus, and later in Deuteronomy. And this legislation sought to ensure proportionate justice. In other words, ensuring that the penalty an injured party could demand in court could not exceed the damage caused. But what Jesus says instead is don't resist evil. The term resist itself was an evocative one, as this word was so frequently used in the context of Israel's ability to triumph over enemies. And in the Old Testament, during the time of exile out of Israel, some writers indicated that the inability to resist evil was a symptom of Israel's failure to honour their commitment to God. So in these verses, Jesus is kind of turning quite a bit of this thought on its head, and he's advocating a voluntary double payment of penalties. If we assume that the repayment should fit the crime, then one might suggest that those who've defamed or rejected God should willingly be doubly despised. But also, if you follow the same train of logic, those who fail to support the needy should do so doubly. Those who've refused to serve should serve doubly. Those who failed in giving should be doubly charitable. This passage and the previous versions articulate that letting God down by failing to honour your promises to God could and perhaps should be regarded the same as theft. And for those many times that those, i.e. us, who have failed in honouring our promises, resisting is not the right course. This passage also refers to the followers of Jesus who were suffering at the hands of false witnesses or persecutors who were misrepresenting God's word. And Jesus advocates compassion towards these individuals and to do good towards them rather than advocate their punishment. These are really hard lessons to learn, and even more to act in reality. To have an attitude that does not ask, what can I get, but what can I give? And to go the extra mile and find a way to bless those who you might feel don't deserve it. This passage articulates the 3 examples of radical true witness. Number 1, not resisting. Number 2, paying double. And number 3, loving your enemy. Can I leave you with some thoughts for personal prayer? To answer perceived injustice with anger, verbal or physical violence, to bear a grudge against someone, to meet unreasonable demands with resistance is to do the expected thing. Jesus calls me to imagine my life differently and thus prompt others to see themselves and their actions differently. Where do I need more generosity or freedom to respond to the vision that Jesus put before me? Do I use laws and rules to protect my security or to promote justice for others? God bless.